Imagine standing in the middle of an endless forest. There are no roads. No signs. No compass. No GPS. Every direction looks exactly the same. The sun disappears behind thick clouds. The wind changes. Even the smell of the air is different. Now imagine your family hasn't eaten for 3 days. Somewhere beyond those hills, a herd of red deer is moving along a trail you've never written down, because writing doesn't exist yet. If you fail to remember that path, your children may not survive the week. For ancient humans, memory wasn't a useful skill. It was the difference between life and death. But here's the strange part. Modern archaeologists believe some prehistoric hunters could remember landscapes stretching hundreds of kilometers, far beyond what most people today could navigate without technology. So how did a human brain, with no maps and no written language, memorize thousands of hunting trails? The answer begins more than 300,000 years ago, when the earliest Homo sapiens appeared in Africa. Unlike later farming societies, these people rarely stayed in one place. They followed rain, rivers, seasons, and migrating animals. Every journey demanded perfect knowledge of the land. Evidence from the Olorgesailie Basin in Kenya shows that human groups repeatedly returned to the same resource-rich locations for hundreds of thousands of years. Stone tools discovered there reveal remarkable planning. These people weren't wandering randomly. They knew exactly where they were going. But remembering one campsite wasn't enough. Imagine trying to remember where water appears after heavy rain, where edible berries grow only during one short season, where lions usually hide, where elephants cross a valley, and where poisonous snakes are most active. Now imagine keeping all of that information inside your head for 40 years. It sounds impossible. Yet the human brain evolved to do exactly that. In 1971, British-American neuroscientist John O'Keefe made a discovery that changed our understanding of navigation forever. Inside a part of the brain called the hippocampus, he found specialized neurons that activate whenever an animal enters a particular location. He called them place cells. More than 30 years later, in 2005, Norwegian scientists May-Britt Moser and Edvard Moser discovered another system. These were grid cells. Unlike place cells, they don't recognize landmarks. Instead, they create an invisible coordinate system, allowing the brain to calculate direction, distance, and movement, even in complete darkness. Together, these discoveries earned the 2014 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. But those discoveries raised an even bigger question. If your brain already contains an internal GPS, how powerful was it before smartphones, roads, and maps began doing the work for you? Archaeologists may already know the answer. Across Ice Age Europe, scientists have found stone tools made from rock that originated more than 200 kilometers away. At sites in present-day France, Germany, and the Czech Republic, hunter-gatherers carried valuable flint across enormous distances. That wasn't an accident. It required knowing exactly where high-quality stone could be found, remembering the safest routes, and returning years later to the same location. Some researchers even believe neighboring groups exchanged information about distant landscapes. In other words, prehistoric humans weren't just sharing food. They were sharing maps. Except those maps existed only inside human memory. Then researchers discovered something even more astonishing. Ancient hunters didn't simply remember places. They remembered time. Reindeer migrated during particular weeks. Salmon returned to rivers during specific seasons. Certain fruits ripened for only a few days each year. A hunting trail wasn't useful unless you also knew when to use it. That meant prehistoric memory worked like a living calendar connected to the landscape itself. Miss the migration by 1 week, and an entire hunting season could disappear. But if ancient humans remembered so much information without writing, how did they stop it from disappearing forever when an elder died? That mystery may reveal the greatest memory system our species has ever created. For thousands of generations, prehistoric humans solved that problem without ever writing a single word. They turned knowledge into stories. Not myths. Not entertainment. Survival manuals disguised as memories. Around a fire, an elder wouldn't simply say, "Walk north until you reach the river." Instead, every landmark became part of a story. The split tree was where a giant aurochs charged a hunter. The narrow valley was where wolves surrounded a camp one winter. The red cliff was where clean water still flowed during a terrible drought. The story made the place unforgettable. Modern researchers have found evidence that this kind of memory system still exists. Australian researcher Dr. Lynn Kelly has spent years studying Indigenous Australian knowledge systems. She argues that many oral cultures transformed entire landscapes into memory devices. Every hill, every unusual rock, every bend in a river became a trigger for another piece of information. Some of these oral traditions, known as songlines, stretch across hundreds of kilometers. They connect waterholes, mountains, hunting grounds, and seasonal camps in one continuous sequence. Long before maps existed, people could travel across vast regions simply by remembering the order of these landmarks. But that wasn't the only system ancient humans relied on. They also read the landscape itself. A broken branch wasn't just a broken branch. It could reveal which direction a herd had moved only hours earlier. Fresh hoofprints sinking deep into wet ground suggested large animals had recently passed. Birds suddenly flying from the same patch of trees could expose a hidden predator. Even the smell of the wind carried information. Experienced hunters could detect damp soil, nearby water, smoke from another group, or the scent of large animals long before they saw them. Their world was full of signals. Most modern people have simply stopped noticing them. Evidence from prehistoric sites shows just how successful these hunters became. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, archaeologists uncovered a settlement dating to about 30,000 years ago. The people living there hunted mammoths repeatedly over many generations. This was only possible because they understood exactly where migrating animals would appear each season. Another remarkable site is Pinsevent in France, dating to roughly 12,000 years ago. Archaeologists reconstructed entire hunting camps from scattered stone tools and animal bones. The evidence suggests hunters returned to the same locations again and again with astonishing accuracy. That level of consistency wasn't luck. It was memory refined over thousands of years. Then genetics revealed something even more surprising. Ancient DNA studies led by geneticist David Reich show that small groups of hunter-gatherers spread across enormous parts of Europe and Asia over tens of thousands of years. Some populations traveled hundreds or even thousands of kilometers across unfamiliar landscapes while remaining connected through generations. Every successful migration depended on people remembering rivers, mountain passes, seasonal weather, and reliable food sources. One mistake could leave an entire group trapped in a place with no water or no game. Natural selection rewarded those who remembered. Over thousands of generations, the best navigators were often the best survivors. That may explain why the human brain developed such extraordinary spatial memory. Even today, your hippocampus quietly builds an internal map every time you visit a new place. Without thinking about it, you begin remembering landmarks. A distinctive building. A bridge. A large tree. A bend in the road. Your brain connects them into a mental route. This ancient navigation system is still working exactly as it did during the Ice Age. The only difference is that today, many people let a smartphone do the remembering instead. Yet the ability has never disappeared. Studies using brain scans have shown that experienced taxi drivers, hikers, and wilderness guides often develop stronger activity in the hippocampus because they constantly build and update mental maps. Your brain still changes when you navigate the world. It always has. It always will. So the next time you instinctively know which street leads home, or recognize a place after seeing only one familiar landmark, remember that you are using a system far older than civilization. Long before roads. Long before paper. Long before maps. Your ancestors carried entire continents inside their minds. And every path they refused to forget became another step in humanity's journey across the world.